friends, welcome back to my channel. It is time for us to do my Pan Those Palettes finale, for me to do like a review of all of the shadows I managed to finish up this year, and to tell you what I'm going to be panning in 2018. So we've got a lot of stuff to go through, so let's go ahead and get started. So we will go ahead and start with my How About Them Apples palette. I'll go ahead and show you guys where I was after 11 months of usage. And here is where my palette is after 12 months of usage. So, as you can see, I did not manage to finish up Crisp. I myself am a little bit surprised by that. When I had gone to essentially repress this, I discovered that there was a lot more product on the outer edges than I had realized. And at this point in the winter, I am very, very pale. So as you can see on the side of my cheeks here, it does not take a lot to produce a pigment on my face. So this did not get used up. Over the course of this year, I managed to finish up 2 shades, which was Pie and Candy, and then I managed to get Pan on both Crisp and Cobbler. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to toss this into a Project Pan and be able to finish up Crisp. I will still keep working on Cobbler as well, but as I had decided previously, once Crisp is used up, wherever Cobbler is, I will call it a quit. Overall, I am really happy with this progress. Would I have liked to have finished Crisp up? Yes, absolutely. But prior to pulling this palette out, I had never used up an entire blush before. So to have not only done that in general with this palette, but to have a majority of it used up at this point, I'm really happy with. And so it does give me a lot of perspective. I'm going to try my darndest to never purchase a blush palette again. I do have a couple others in my hoarding closet, but they are not cream based. So at least I can work out one of these cream products, which I know typically have a shorter shelf life than powder products do. Alright, and now it's time to talk about my Maybelline The Blushed Nudes. I will go ahead and show you where I was after 11 months of usage. And here is where I am after 12 months of usage. So, as you can see, all I am left with is this one brown shade. I did widen the pan area a little bit more, but the reality is I am really happy with this palette. This palette doesn't have a very big price point, which is not why I do the Pan Those Palette challenges. It's palettes that I really actually want to pan and use, and this one I got so much use out of. I really did enjoy working through it. It challenged me in different ways, and I really was pleased with my progress. When I started this, I had already panned these first 3 shadows. So over the course of 2018, I have worked through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different pans, hit pan on this one, and then decluttered 3 of them that I really didn't like. And I have to say, at first, I really didn't like the idea of decluttering or not using up every single shadow, but the reality is I've come to find with these panning projects that I would really prefer to spend my time panning things that I actually really like. Yes, on the one hand, it's a bummer to theoretically not have gotten your money's worth to pan these 4, but I did so much other work and I enjoyed it, and I actually panned a lot of other shadows along the way, so I'm really happy with that. Definitely proud of myself, and I will be throwing this away, which is really exciting. So all in all, I really appreciate you guys helping me work through this because it was such a joy to use this. As I previously mentioned, and as you guys saw throughout the year, that Maybelline Blush Nudes palette could not stand alone, so I had to pull in a lot of other shadows. That palette was mostly crease shades, so I had to pull in cream shades, which I use all over my eye area as like a setting type powder, and then I go in with lid shades and crease shades on top of it. And that palette didn't have a lot of lid shades either. So I have pulled out all of the items that you guys also saw me pan alongside the Maybelline The Blush Nudes. The first one that I had hit pan on was the Studio Makeup On The Go eyeshadow palette. in this palette, I panned just the cream shade that was inside here. This is a really neutral based palette and I'm really happy to have it. I'm probably going to use it up the way I did with this shade and just use this alongside other palettes. So I'm happy to have worked through one of the shades in here. When that was done, I then moved on to the MUA Nude Eyeshadow Palette. And again, this is a lot of neutral based eyeshadows. And so I started out with a cream shade and then I ended up working through a lid color in here as well. This palette is now mostly crease shades. So it's one of those palettes I'll probably have to work on side by side with something else. Maybe I have in my collection a palette that is mostly lid colors, and so this might couple nicely with that. When that was all done, I pulled out my Lorac Champagne Dreams eyeshadow palette and decided to pan the cream shade that was in here. Again, as you will notice, I have a lot of neutral eyeshadows. This one is predominantly metallic or satin based ones, and so I was happy to use the one matte one that was inside here. I also have been working on my Stila In The Moment palette, and for this one, I had again panned both a cream and a lid shade in here. The lid shade took a really long time for me to work through, so I was really happy that I managed to use it up and again get through it another one of my many cream shades. The last palette that I had pulled out to get a cream shade from was the Kiko Milano palette. This one, I have to say, I was really surprised by. I did hit pan on this shade. I'm definitely a little bit bummed that I didn't fully pan it, but the fact that I hit pan at all is surprising. This is basically just 1 month's worth of use. I'm sure with the second month, I probably could pan the whole thing, but I'm going to give it up and focus on my 2018 Pan That palette. So in total, over the course of this year, I managed to pan completely 11 eyeshadows and then hit pan on 2 more. So in total, 13 different eyeshadows, got a lot of work done to them. That to me is really awesome and tremendous. I don't know what that breaks down to for actual grams, but either way, it's really, really exciting for me and I'm super happy to have gotten through all of that shadow. I definitely think it wouldn't have happened unless it was palettes and colors that I really, really like using. So now that brings me to what I am going to pan in 2018. I had asked you guys for some help with this and I have to say I am so appreciative of you helping me. The feedback I got really helped sway me and get me to start to think a little bit more strategically about items in my collection. So with that said, I am going to be decluttering both my Stila palette and my Lorac Champagne Dreams palette. The reality is I just don't like these, and I have learned from this panning challenge over 2017 that I have to really like something, and the reality is I have used the shades in both of these palettes over 2017 that I like. And so now I don't want to spend another year working with shades that I just don't think are that great. These are also on the older side. I've had them for a while and I feel like especially with the Stila one, that has altered the formula on some of these. And so even though it kind of pains me a little bit, thanks to your support and your encouragement, I am going to say goodbye to these palettes. So that left me with a decision between the Jaclyn Hill palette, the Cargo palette, and the Lorac Mega Pro palette. I have to say, I will not be panning my Cargo Cosmetics palette, even though I like this palette a lot, and I definitely think I could probably get through it in a year. It is the newest palette out of these 3, and a lot of you guys had made good points that this, while I could do, would only mean that my other older palettes already were only going to get older. So I thought I would then look at one of these 2. The Jaclyn Hill palette really does call to my heart, and a lot of you had said that you would be really curious to see what it would be like to actually work on this continuously, what kind of looks I could do, how much product I could actually maybe get through, and I agree, I'm still very intrigued, but I have to say, at the end of the day, I want to actually hit pan. And so I feel like realistically, if I want to hit that aspiration, I've got to go with the Lorac Mega Pro. So this is the palette I am going to pan for 2018. In case you haven't seen this puppy, this is what it looks like. So many shades. The top 2 rows are matte and the bottom 2 rows are a combination of satin and metallic. Now, I have some very specific rules and goals that are going to go along with this palette. First off, there are 3 shades in here that I'm going to pop out and throw away that I have put little black X's next to. I just don't like them for one reason or another. The first one that's going to go is Indigo. As you can probably see here, it's got pounds of glitter in it, which you know I do not like. I'm also getting rid of Caviar, which despite not looking like it, also has a glittery hint to it, and I don't like it. And then Deep Teal, while it is beautiful in that little pan there, and I very much do like it, it comes off as like a black color in real life. And so I am not gonna fuss around with it. The other rule that we're keeping in mind here is for the black shade, I never wear black eyeshadow except for when I wear pencil eyeliner, in which case when I do, I always set it with some black shadow. So I will only be using the black one for that particular purpose. The other rule I'm gonna put on myself here is I am only going to allow myself to use a particular eyeshadow shade until I hit pan on it. Once I hit pan on it, I'm going to force myself to move on. The reason why is not that I don't plan on panning this whole thing, because really, I'm gonna do that. But it is because I really, when it comes down to my goal, I just wanna see how many of these I can hit pan on. I know it's not realistic for me to actually pan completely this entire palette in 1 year, but I really just want to see how many of these shades I could genuinely hit pan on. It also will force me to actually play with a lot of color variety. Like for example, today in my eyelids, I pulled in Mulberry, a shade I would not normally put in my crease, and I used blush as my lid color. So I think that it will also force me to eventually have to use certain colors I may not naturally be drawn to. I am willing to bet by the end of 2018 that the cream will be used up, the white will get used up. I imagine opal, sand, vanilla, and cashmere will all be completely used up because those are some of my like favorite colors ever to use on my lid and for this part of my eye area. But the rest of them, I feel like if I could at least get pan on them, that would be pretty freaking fantastic. This is also an older palette. This is the original when it first came out. I was not someone who bought this after the fact when they re-released it, and so it is on the older side. I think this was from 2015, I believe it was. I could be wrong. Maybe it was 2014. And I really do like a lot of the shadows in here. So I'm looking forward to working through this. I will need a lot of encouragement and a lot of your support to do this. This also potentially could be the wedding palette I end up using if I do end up doing my own makeup. This was the palette I had used for my engagement photo shoot, and I was happy with that look. So all in all, I'm excited. I'm looking forward to the challenge. You will see monthly updates as we go along the way. If you have any thoughts or comments or feedback to give me about this particular palette, let me know in the comments below, and I'll talk to you in my next video real soon. Bye.